560 The Answer.
Listen to podcasts of Joe Walsh and Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Breaking up with Facebook is hard to do, or is it? A lot of the Democrat Socialist presidential candidates have taken up the issue of whether Facebook should be subject to antitrust action. Less so on the conservative side. Certainly the lament about practices like shadow banning on Twitter, the censoring of individuals on Facebook, other social media platforms. But it's mostly been calls for fair play rather than calls for federal prosecution from the right. However, there was this interesting interview that I mentioned a bit earlier in the week over at the stream.org with our friend John Zmirak and Will Chamberlain. That's Will, no T. Will Chamberlain. Will Chamberlain, I believe, has slept with fewer than 20,000 women. That's how you distinguish them. Also, I don't think he scored 100 points in a game. Will Chamberlain, that is.
He did both. Yeah.
But the question, they go through some of the questions and the arguments that have been made by free market types like myself about the First Amendment, restraint on government interfering with private property, private businesses, private platforms, particularly in the area of speech, as well as whether or not conservatives should stop crying and just focus on building their own castle, and the other arguments. It's interesting where they come down. And this is, in some respects, where Dennis Prager has come down. We talked about it last night in our cigar event, where you essentially argue, as he is in his lawsuit, in Prager University's lawsuit against YouTube and Google by extension, that these social media platforms are public places of accommodation. They're the virtual lunch counter, if you will. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by John Zmirak, writer and editor for thestream.org, also the author of the book, The Politically Incorrect Guide to Immigration. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks. It's good to be on. Yeah, I think the public accommodation argument is a serious one. Here's another one. Imagine if a private company were to buy up the public squares in every city in America, so that they're no longer public property, and then forbid political demonstrations of one political party. Well, First Amendment doesn't apply. It's private property. Well, why did you let them buy up all the public squares? Nope, doesn't matter. That's private property. Don't be a socialist. Go found new cities. Go found a new Manhattan. And then in your new Manhattan, you can have Republican speech if you want it. That's the equivalent of saying go start another Facebook.
Well, but Buzz Aldrin has said it's time for us to leave for Mars, so there is that option.
Well,
but here's the thing: the physical space, tangible property is scarce, is limited. Virtual space is not.
That's not really true, because there's a legacy effect of connection. I mean, people have told me you should go join Gab, G-A-B, instead of Twitter. Oh, okay. And so I'll have 3 followers instead of 7,000. Remember, Facebook and Twitter accumulated these vast networks when they had free speech. Right. They changed the meaning of their so-called community standards over the course of time. So that by the time they started the ratchet effect of silencing Christians and conservatives, you would have a lot to lose by quitting. So in a sense, you could say it was fraudulent.
But you always knew they could do that, or you should have known.
Oh, you should have known they could defraud you, that they could change the meaning of the community standards that you signed up for and take away valuable property of yours. That's fraud. If the government can't fix that, screw the government. We don't even need one. If the government can't stop one oligarchy, from silencing political speech, using fraud by changing the definition of the agreement people signed years ago so that their intellectual property, their connections, their contacts can be taken away from them arbitrarily without appeal, then frankly, if we're such free market purists that we're not willing to use the government to do that, then I want those same free market purists to come out against the Civil Rights Act, because that's an attack on capitalism. I want them to come out against Social Security and demand with the same vigor that Social Security be eliminated and that the military draft be eliminated, because those are not compatible with free market capitalism. It just shocks me that people who are willing to tax citizens to use their money to invade Iraq aren't willing to force these social media companies to live up to the spirit and letter of agreements they signed with people 15 years ago.
So you just used the word oligopoly. So you're suggesting not just the government intervention with Facebook, but with Google, with Apple, with Amazon, with
Google
Twitter.
And Twitter.
Google and
not
Twitter.
Apple necessarily. Not Apple. Apple.
Well, the Apple competes in the space and is in the same businesses as Facebook's in. So if you're going to regulate Facebook,
really, in what sense? I think of Apple as making hardware. But you can always buy a PC.
Well, they have instant messaging apps and so forth.
Oh yeah, but you can. In that case, I really think there's enough vigorous competition. People can really buy PCs. There is from many different companies. So I just strikes me.
But so Google,
much as I hate Apple, I don't think they have a monopoly position in the same way that Twitter and especially Google have.
So those three, as it pertains to content, should face government scrutiny, if not prosecution.
Well, here's what I would say. There are two options, and I've got a new piece up at stream.org actually today. Trump is Tribune of the People. Trump has set up a website, a tech bias sharing tool for ordinary Americans to go on and tell their stories of how they've been affected by tech social media bias, and I think that's brilliant. It's going to be similar to the way he got the stories of angel moms who were victimized by illegal immigrants. Either we can force these companies, by changing the federal communications law, we can force them to really be what they pretend to be, which is neutral platforms. The only reason that they're not subject to libel actions, that Nick Sandman's lawyer can't close down Google and Twitter and Facebook with a lawsuit, for damages, is that they have this veil of, but we are neutral platforms. We're not publishers and editors.
They don't speak in that tone
really?
of voice, do they? They don't actually speak like that, do they? That's not actually their voice, is it?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
All right. Well, besides on Facebook and Twitter, targeting edgy conservatives, do you think they're going after mainstream people right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're going after Orthodox Christians. Small O Orthodox, if you support biblical Christianity on sexual ethics, you're going to get closed down. My friend Michael Brown, a completely mainstream evangelical Christian of Jewish background, talks a lot about defending Israel and the rights of Jewish people. He's not an extremist at all, except, to Tim Cook and the LGBT activists, he's an extremist because he supports traditional marriage. So his YouTubes get demonetized so that all the work he did making those videos can't support his family. Well, no, you can't get any money from it because we don't like your ideas.
Well, there is something to that, and Dennis Prager makes the same point that the preponderance of his videos that have been taken down, the PragerU videos that have been taken down by YouTube, were all of a religious nature, him talking about, or others talking about God and faith. So there's something.
So imagine Facebook and Twitter started just banning every Muslim. Do you think they'd get away with that?
No. They wouldn't.
Well, why should we let them get away with it with us?
That's a good point.
If the other side, if we're in a boxing ring and we're following the Marquis of Queensberry rules, and our opponent pulls out a switchblade, are we just going to continue fighting by the traditional rules? If so, we're idiots and we deserve to be destroyed.
Well, I mean, there is the argument that we could be them, but they couldn't be us, and that's something that we should guard jealously.
What?
We could.
They can beat us. They are beating us.
No.
They are beating us.
No. We could be them. We could be barbarians. We could be.
It's time when you're.
totalitarians.
I'm sorry. It's time. It's time to stop. If you're in a boxing ring and the other guy starts playing by MMA rules, you play by MMA rules, or you're a fool and you get obliterated.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And then
I'm not
people
sure.
might remember your high-mindedness.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Yeah, right. I get the sports metaphors. I like to use them too. I'm not sure it's applicable.
That's the Jeb Bush thing.
Well, let me ask you this, because there's something in this interview with Will Chamberlain that is a bit problematic, in addition to just sort of the disagreement we have on premises. But he says the ideological work of these enterprises has been so effective that conservatives have a need of not just these enterprises, but institutional capture by Republican donors. The ideological work there has been so effective that conservatives have a knee-jerk revulsion to any kind of regulation on a private company, not even when such a regulation is a prerequisite to Republicans winning elections. Well, there's two issues with that. One is a Republican won an election in 2016, and as I understand it, Mark Zuckerberg called either Pascal or Trump on election night and said, your Facebook ad campaign was the most successful political Facebook ad campaign that's been run to date. So that was Trump using the infrastructure Mark Zuckerberg did to, in part, get him across the finish line. Number two, should we be making decisions about regulations of anything, of any sort, based on winning or losing elections?
Okay, first of all, for the last 2 years, the tech industry was agonizing about that. How can we prevent that from happening again? And that's when all the bans started. And second, absolutely, we should be regulating immigration in terms of keeping out future Democrats. Absolutely. Absolutely. The founding fathers thought that way. They didn't want to let Tories from Canada come in who were going to vote against the interests of the newly founded United States. If we think our policies are essential for preserving the country from socialism, from religious discrimination, the attacks on the family, of the abortion of unborn children, then part of how we govern should include how to hold on to power. Absolutely.
Well, how to hold on to power and ideological tests for whether it's entrance into this country or regulation of a particular business or enterprise. Aren't those different things? Aren't those different things?
No, I don't think so. Not anymore. Not when your opponents are no longer patriots. The Democrats are no longer a patriotic American party. They want to open our borders to foreign invasion. I don't consider them legitimate patriotic opponents. And we're not talking about Hubert Humphrey here. We're talking about Bernie Sanders, who honeymooned in the Soviet Union at the height of its totalitarianism, and Alexandria Cortez, who wants to close down a third of the economy and redistribute all the wealth and open the borders. I mean, if our current immigration policies continue, no Republican will ever be able to be elected president again. We're very close to that tipping point just through sheer demographic replacement of future Democrats. People come in, they're poor, they're low skill, they vote for more big government. The Democrats have figured that out. They never intend to fix immigration. We're on the verge of pro-life, pro-family, pro-gun candidates being completely and permanently unelectable in America.
All right.
It's time to take off the gloves.
All right. I'll let you have the last word. He is John Zmirak, writer and editor for thestream.org, author of the book, The Politically Incorrect Guide to Immigration, and his piece, this interview, which is important. Check it out because this is an important discussion and debate to have, including among sort of those that are otherwise ideologically simpatico on the right. Big tech's war on free speech for Christians and conservatives violates our civil rights. Get that at thestream.org. I'll tweet it out. John,
thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM